This is a new relationship. It's somewhat unprecedented. There may be some bumps in the road as we sort out what is certainly changed relationship between the Vice Division of the Houston Police Department and the clubs that are represented here today. But one thing is clear, we are focused not any longer on viewing the workers in these clubs or primarily women, the dancers, as the problem. We're focused on what the true issue is, and the true problem for our community on the human trafficking aspect. There will be those in the community who don't approve of this settlement. There will be those who will never be comfortable with adult entertainment venues, and I understand and respect that. But in terms of the future of the city of Houston, this is a good step forward. It ends decades of litigation. It gives us tools to tackle what we think is a more significant problem, and it allows me to put my police resources working with the chief of police to what I consider a higher priority. Thank everybody for standing with me today as we make this announcement, and I look forward to your questions.
Mayor, what about the other clubs? One club you have here has been in business for a number of years, and they run a very professional operation. You have marginal clubs where you don't have any Asians, you're blacks, you don't have any Latino clubs involved in this. How do they get involved if they want to get involved?
I'm going to invite the city attorney to come up.
I would say if those clubs want to come forward and do all the things that these 16 clubs have committed themselves to do, not simply the financial contribution, but more importantly, how they operate their clubs, and we're certainly willing to sit down and talk with them.
Attorney Coleman, can you briefly elaborate on what the 1997 ordinance does and why this litigation ensued for people who don't remember 16 years ago what this was all about?
We have about 3 hours. Well, in the simplest form, the ordinance established permitting requirements, vocational restrictions, and also operational restrictions. The 16 clubs here, most of them existed prior to the 97 ordinance, had to go through a process of what we call amortization. And if they remained a sexually oriented business, then for some of them, their location would have been a critical issue under the ordinance. One of the reasons we've been involved in litigation with these clubs for so long is trying to establish that, in fact, they are sexually oriented businesses and subject to the ordinance. That has been a long, difficult, very difficult task, and that's largely what the litigation has been about. And, you reach a point, as Mr. Weston was saying, how long do you keep banging your head up against the wall? The purposes of the ordinance have not been achieved. This agreement is actually intended to achieve those purposes.
Mr. Feldman, could you provide us the citation of the ordinance for those who would like to read it on their own?
I'm sorry?
The citation of the ordinance so that we can look it up in
talk to my lawyer. Chapter 20.
Thank you.
David, on one of the critical issues of the past year was schools and churches getting within a certain distance of sexually oriented business. Now, under the new agreement, will these businesses be exempted now or be grandfathered in?
Well, they're grandfathered, but recognize, Tony, that we have spent years trying to establish that they were covered by the vocational requirements, and we have been unsuccessful. in doing that. So we're simply stating that since we have not been able to establish that they're covered by the ordinance, we acknowledge that. And therefore, they can remain where they are during the period of this agreement.
Do you have a number on how many clubs are not in this? I mean, that are not participating in this?
Well, there are a lot of clubs that have that proliferate in Houston, unpermitted clubs, what we refer to as road clubs. These are clubs that fly under the radar, that are the real hub of the criminal activity, and we believe in trafficking. What this agreement will do will give HPD the opportunity to focus on those road clubs. I'm not certain of the numbers. The Vice Division could probably give you something more accurate, but clearly well over 100 clubs would be involved. Many of whom are hubs of illegal activity, and it's the job of my office in cooperation and working very closely with HPD that we file civil actions to close those clubs down. Now, if there are respectable clubs out there or clubs that seek to comply with the law, if they are interested in doing all the things that these 16 clubs have obligated themselves to do, obligations that they did not otherwise have, then we would certainly be willing to talk with them about, bringing them into this effort. But most of those clubs, let me underscore that most of those clubs out there are road clubs. And those are the clubs that we have to go after, because those are the hubs of the criminal activity and we believe in trafficking.
Can you get a clear definition of what pimp is and what are the purposes of supposedly trafficking in this particular type of slave trade, so that everybody will know and how to define pimp when they see it?
Well, as the mayor was identifying the terms of the agreement, and she was pointing out that no dancer could be accompanied by someone who takes their money for them, it's under their control, by force, arrest, coercion. A pimp is someone who controls somebody to such an extent that the individual has to do their bidding regardless. And it's by force, arrest, coercion, the addiction to drugs, threats upon themselves and their family. A pimp is someone like a slave owner, literally. I don't know if I could be more specific than that.
That was fine.
Mayor, I think we're good.
Again, I want to thank everybody for standing with me today. We are recognizing the businesses that we have signed this agreement with as stable, established businesses in the city of Houston. We are recognizing a new relationship with them where we will try to work together to focus our resources on what we consider real problems in the community. This doesn't give these businesses any kind of a free pass. We're still going to be doing narcotics enforcement. We're going to still be doing other things, but we're not going to be focused on do they comply with specifics of the 1997 ordinance, which spent a lot of time and energy on what goes on inside the clubs in areas that we don't think are the highest priority. And it does allow us to refocus police resources and city resources into other areas. We think it's a productive step forward. Appreciate the clubs working together. It is a new day in Houston. So thank you.